My name is Juan Pablo Sarmiento Barletti. I'm a social anthropologist at CIFOR. I'm based in the Lima hub. As part of my research in CIFOR, we're looking at multi-stakeholder initiatives in 4 different countries. We're working in Peru, Brazil, Indonesia, and Ethiopia. And what we're trying to really work out is how to enhance participation in these spaces so that their outcomes are equitable for the people that live in forest or forest-dependent communities. So as part of that, we are very interested in land rights. So in Peru, there's a massive move towards titling and formalizing communal territories for indigenous peoples, specifically in the Amazon. And this comes from an agreement that is very closely related to REDD+, that Peru signed with Norway and Germany, through which Peru has promised to title 5 million hectares for indigenous peoples. So what we're seeing now is how there's the massive impact that donors can have on national policies. Because Peru, although it's seen as a fantastic case study for regulation of territories and communal rights, it's been lagging for many, many years in terms of completing titling processes for some communities and just even accepting applications for titling from others. So what we're looking at is this massive, massive effort to title communities before REDD+ is actually fully implemented in the country. That's actually a key question, because what we see more and more is that, going back to Peru, for example, Peru still owns all the resources in the subsoil. So if they find oil or they find natural gas, it's owned by the country, not by the people, which has led to countries, again, like Peru, but also the inequality in Brazil, in many different places, to give concession rights to extractive companies over territories that are titled, because after all, they don't own the subsoil. Now there's even a more complicated issue that it's not just subsoil rights that are being claimed by states, but now it's also the right to carbon, which is also very important for initiatives like REDD. So yes, they have the right to the land, but as you can see, it's a bit more complicated than that. They don't have the right to all of the resources. Well, they've got a thing called social safeguards, although REDD has a lot of goodwill behind it, and it was put together with the best intentions in mind. It still has to be applied in local context, and local contexts have, they're varied. There's different histories of interactions between states and indigenous peoples, there's different histories of discrimination, there's different histories of exclusionary practices in decision making. So even though there's this big, good idea, its implementation is still affected by local contexts. So we recently did a systematic search of the scholarly literature on this, and what we found is a variety of different cases of alleged abuses of these rights in many different places in the world within the context of REDD. Not always the REDD is the cause of these abuses, but also that REDD is being implemented in spaces where these abuses happen. So what we found is that REDD itself is not well prepared or not prepared enough to deal with these kinds of situations. And what we did then is we set a series of recommendations for how we think it can be moved into a rights-based approach that would benefit indigenous peoples hugely, really.